time for the best coverage of the top stories in sports. The Sports Wrap with Jason Page starts now.
Yes, it does, and so good to have you with us on this Monday edition of the show. We got a lot to do over the next 60 minutes. Plenty of football. Bill Bender will be here, as he is every Monday from the Sporting News. Does a terrific job on college football. All things football, but we get him on the college. We've got NFL Week 7 Sunday reactions for you. That's coming up as well. And a general overall question I want to ask about the league a little later on in the show. Tragedy hitting the sports world this weekend that we'll get to, as well as some NASCAR results from the playoffs at Talladega. But we start things out in baseball. Sam Yarnell is here. All right, Sam. We've got a Game 7. We'll get to the Ohtani stuff in a minute because it was a couple of days ago now. But I want to talk about the fact that we get the two greatest words in all of professional sports. No matter what sport you're talking about, a Game 7 is special. And a Game 7 between these two teams, the Mariners and the Blue Jays, is particularly special because in the case of the Mariners, they've never won a Game 7 in their franchise history. They've never been to a World Series in their franchise history. Hello to our friends watching on Root Sports. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, it's been a long climb to get back to this point for this franchise. And we're going to get a Game 7 between these two teams on Monday night after a Game 5 for the ages with the Eugenio Suarez Grand Slam. And then the Blue Jays responding the way they did in Game 6. I want to say one thing before I let you chime in, and I want to get your thoughts on this. Watching the entire series, I know it's 3-3 going to a Game 7, obviously. But to me, the Toronto Blue Jays have been the better team in this series. I feel like they've played better baseball in this series. The Mariners have been sloppy, really sloppy. And sometimes they've been able to get away with it. They've been taken off the hook, by various guys. But to me, the Toronto Blue Jays just feel like the better team. That doesn't mean they win tonight. It's a one-game situation, all hands on deck, anything can happen. But to me, it feels like the Blue Jays have been the better team in this series. I'm curious to get your thoughts.
I'd agree with you, which is funny because they're like, I don't think anyone would say that they're the more talented team, especially with all the moves that this Mariners team made at the deadline to bring in all this talent on the field. And you think about that pitching rotation, we were talking about it before the season as a generational one. So I think that it speaks volumes to like playing good baseball is what will obviously, as stupid as it sounds, that's what will win you baseball games, especially when it matters. And that's what the Toronto Blue Jays are doing right now. I mean, not enough can be said about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. This guy, I mean, is very, very quickly coming on the scene as a top 3 at worst hitter in baseball. This is absolutely crazy what he's done over the last 3 weeks for this Toronto Blue Jays team, at times single-handedly powering them to victories. I'll say again, Trey Savage, Sunday night, another gem for the Toronto Blue Jays. The bullpen was great too, but, Trey Savage absolutely stepping up now twice that I can remember in this postseason when the Blue Jays absolutely needed him to, worse than anything. Truly impressive stuff what the East Carolina grad has been able to do in this postseason for Toronto, Jason. And yeah, again, I don't think anyone is going to sit here and tell you that they're the more talented team. I still won't, but they've been playing better baseball so far, and it's why I think they're going to win this series.
You watch them defensively, and they've been good defensively all year, by the way, but you watch what they do in the field, and you watch some of the mistakes that the Mariners make, both from a base running standpoint and in terms of how they play in the field. I've been very impressed with what the Blue Jays, and what we forget, and we have not discussed this at all throughout this whole season, they're doing it without arguably their best all-around player in Bo Bichette. Like, we forget that. And if they get him back, I mean, they could get him back conceivably for the World Series. If they win this game, that would be pretty remarkable unto itself. Here's the thing I'm curious about tonight. I just want to get your thought on this. There could be a propensity, a tendency is the word I'm looking for. There could be a tendency to overmanage in a spot like this tonight, and that's what I'm going to be watching. You have Kirby. It's supposed to be, I guess, Kirby versus Bieber in Game 7. And here's the thing. if either of those guys, one of them, both of them struggle, and it becomes a bullpen game, which button you push, which wire you cut, so to speak. Cut the red wire, you cut the blue wire. Which one's going to blow up? It could potentially blow up horrifically for either of these coaches, Sam Yarnell, either of these managers.
Here's the thing, and here's the reason John Schneider has the advantage in that. He can push the Max Scherzer button, which he should do at any point, as somebody who has seen Max Scherzer pitch both in this postseason and in Game 7 historically.
Does that
give
work
the ball
twice?
to Max Scherzer.
I don't know. See, and it's so funny because if you remember last Thursday, I was the guy that said I thought Max Scherzer was going to pitch well. I said that last Thursday on the show, and David Arthur was like, and he texted me the other night saying, oh my God, I was so wrong. I'm going to tell you something. That worked once. Are you going to get that same thing from him coming out of the bull? I don't know. I'm just saying, man. It's going to be so much fun to watch these managers match up and make decisions. And nobody's watching baseball for the managers, but we are watching for some of these matchups, and I can't wait to see them. All right, real quick. Ohtani. Because we could honestly spend an entire segment on this, and we're gonna have plenty of time to talk about Ohtani leading into the what we're going to be going into here with the World Series. But what he did the other night, it goes without saying here, just how special what he brought to baseball was the other night with the 3 home runs, the 6+ innings, the 10 strikeouts. One of the greatest single game performances we've seen by anybody in any spot. I know you love to wax poetic about him, so I'll give you 60 seconds to do it here.
You ready to laugh?
Sure.
Yes, it was great. Yes, it was once in a generation that you'll see that. Shohei Ohtani is the greatest baseball player in baseball today, and it's not particularly close. However, everybody talking about how that was the greatest single game in playoff history, I'm sorry, you're wrong. And me being the Yankee hater I am, I can't believe that I have to do this. Don Larson threw a perfect game in Game 5 of the World Series in a series that was tied 2-2 against a batting order where 5 of the 9 hitters went to the Hall of Fame. I'm sorry, this isn't as impressive. It's the best thing we've seen in 70 years, but it's not better than Don Larson's perfect game.
Don Larson wasn't getting up to the plate 3 times in home runs either, though. I know, Sam. I get it. But different time in baseball. We're out of time. We're coming back. Welcome back inside the SportsWrap studios on this Monday edition of the show. Coming up in 10 minutes, Bill Bender of the Sporting News to talk college football. There are so many headlines to get to. And we'll do that coming up with Bill. By the way, did you see the way North Carolina lost? Oh my God. It is the train wreck of train wrecks right now for that school. Whew. Well, let's do some NFL.
They covered.
Yeah, hey, there you go. Hey, so did the Giants, which I said last Friday on the show. By the way, 2-2 for me and Paige versus the Prince. I think you went 1-3?
3-1, baby. That Lunder just keeps paying out.
Is that what you did? You did 3-1. I'm just perpetually 2-2. We're just every week we're just gonna lock me in for 2-2.
I do. You, there is some truth in what you're saying. I think I deserve 2 losses for being on the Jaguars. However, the Lunder really bailed me out there.
Let's talk about a couple of games I want to focus on. And for those wondering, oh my God, there's so many games. How are they? We get to the bulk of them on Tuesday in weekend leftovers because there's just so much going on right now. But I want to get to 2 games in particular. Starting with the Giants, who I said take the 7.5, and if you tailed me on that, you were successful. The Giants are up 19-0 in this game, basically going to the fourth quarter. And then, inexplicably, the Broncos offense, which looked lifeless all day, puts up 33 on this Giants defense. You have Jackson Dart throwing an interception that sort of lets the Broncos back in this game late stages of the fourth quarter. And then the Giants, score a touchdown to actually take the lead on one of the weirdest drives, aided by terrible officiating, which is another topic all unto itself, and we could all lose our minds about that. And the Giants leave too much time on the clock, basically for the Broncos to go down the field and get a field goal because the Giants miss an extra point. Wow, Sam, a lot to unpack from this Broncos-Giants game.
Yeah. I mean, there is, but I also want to chalk it up to something as simple as this was a rookie quarterback who got a little too comfortable in the fourth quarter of an NFL game. And it feels like that is like, at the end of the day, dollar in the jar. But this game came down to the Giants needing to not throw it away and literally give the other team a win was the only thing they couldn't do. And then their rookie quarterback did exactly that. So, I don't know, call me an optimist, but like pretty solvable issue. And like, you played 45 minutes of really good football. So positive takeaways on the New York side. I don't know. I'm not going to overreact to this loss on the Giants side saying, oh my gosh, this is another day ball masterclass. This guy's got to go. And oh, this defense that's really, really good just can't get us. No, and I'm also not going to say, oh, wow, the Denver Broncos are a great football team and they're really going to contend this year. Did you watch the game? I mean, I just said it. They were handed that game on a silver platter and barely won it. So everybody wants to overreact to this game. I don't know. It feels kind of not inconsequential for me.
I said last Thursday or Friday when we did our last show of the week that I thought the Broncos were frauds. I still believe the Broncos are frauds. I still believe this is a team that, all right, fine, they'll make the playoffs. This does not feel like a team that is still ready to make a deep run. I know their defense is good, despite what happened in that game yesterday, where the Giants put up 32 points. But
I was going to say, is their defense good? They
I
just
think
let
it
rookies
is.
Run all over them.
I know that, but you got to look at the entire body of work this year, and that defense has really kept them in a lot of games that the offense really hasn't held up its end of the bargain. And look, the officiating is obviously a big part of the story of this game yesterday, as well as it continues to be around the league. This league that continues to succeed in spite of itself is still a part of the story as well, Sam. But I do think there are a lot of positives to take away if you're the Giants. But I wonder if a loss like this and the way it went down, we talked about last week Brian Daboll as being safe. I wonder if he is. I really do. Losses like this, when you combine it with, potentially some of the coaches that are going to be available out there in this upcoming offseason. And again, you're drafting, the quarterback for the next head coach, not the current head coach. There's still a lot that goes into this here, and I'll be curious to see how the Giants finish the season. Right now, they're 2-5. I mean, the Giants could very easily be 4-3 right now. Loss against the Saints is a horrendous loss. This loss is a horrendous loss. You flip those two around, you're basically a 4-3 football team right now. And not just, potentially a playoff team. You're still in it for the division.
Yeah, I think Daboll's safe, though, just because kind of the inverse of what you said. I think Mara has heard all of you can't go draft a quarterback and then switch coaches on him. It ruins the quarterback. And I mean, he saw it practically happen with Daniel Jones. So I don't know. I think Daboll's safe. I think that Giants win over the Eagles went a really, really, really long way in terms of that guy's job security. I'd be very, very shocked if they fired him right now.
Real quick in the final minute 45, because we spent a lot on that game. Obviously, what took place yesterday, the injury to Jaden Daniels is something we're going to be watching. It doesn't look that serious right now, but we'll know more as we go through practice throughout the week. But hey, maybe Jerry Jones was onto something. Maybe the Cowboys are still in it, Sam. Man, that offense could score points, though. That offense could score points, though, man.
No,
I know. I get it.
Doing this.
Listen, I mean, they're still very much in it as we finish week 7. And this goes into the argument, Sam, that I'm going to make in segment 5 about why the Cowboys are still in it. But boy, some regression here for the Commanders, Sam, is also part of this story, I think.
If the Cowboys are still in it, then record-wise, the Minnesota Vikings and the Atlanta Falcons are still in it.
Yes, and that's what goes into what I'm going to talk about a little later on in the hour.
And those are three teams that just over the course of a 17, 18-week season, I'm not going to buy all the way in on, because so many questions around each of those franchises. And the Dallas Cowboys, oh my goodness. I'll tell you what the Dallas Cowboys are. At a 500 record, they may be the first ever 500 record that is a complete and total fraud.
All right, I'm gonna marinate in that for a little bit, because we got some more NFL coming up a little later on in the show, because I think there's a larger overall question to have about this season in the NFL. We'll get to that, but some college football with Bill Bender is next. Thanks for being with us on this Monday. More NFL coming up a little later on, about 20 minutes. I have a very important question I want to ask about the state of the league for this season. We'll get to that coming up. Also some NASCAR and odds and ends. But it's a Monday on SportsWrap, and that means this guy is here. Bill Bender gets the 3-box treatment, the tri-box, today on the show as Sam joins in for the conversation on college football. Bill does a great job at the Sporting News and hangs out with us Mondays here on the show. So, Bill, it's funny. The last 2 years seem to sort of be spitting images of each other for Notre Dame, where they get off to a slow start and then have to figure out a way to win their way through the rest of the schedule just to get into the playoffs. Are they on the verge of doing that again?
I think so, and even with that extra loss, because the running game's dominant, that their schedule's set up that they should win 10 games. I think there's going to be some SEC attrition, would be the way to put it. Games like this weekend, where you have 3 games between SEC schools that are going to impact the picture. So, I do think Notre Dame will eventually get in that 12-team field, and it's going to cause that consternation with the SEC and the Big Ten as usual, because they're taking somebody's spot.
and it feels like it happens every year somehow with Notre Dame, and we almost can predict it. And you said it, even after they had the early losses, you were like, yeah, but if they win out, they could still get it. And it feels like it happens every year with them.
Yeah, and I don't mind though, like in this instance, because USC beats them, then it would have been easy to pile on Notre Dame and say, join a conference, your schedule's not tough enough, but they were able to run all over the Trojans in the first half. Jeremiah Love had a huge game, and then they got turnover at the end. And I do think, somebody asked me earlier this morning, if Notre Dame, would you consider them one of the teams that you maybe could challenge Ohio State, who's kind of separated themselves as the national championship favorite? And I mean, they did beat Indiana last year, and Indiana's number 2 in the country. I kind of want to see that rematch.
Sam?
Bill, so I'm just trying to get this straight, because obviously all this Notre Dame talk has me wondering and reminiscing on past CFPs. Is there somebody in the Notre Dame athletics office that's still on the CFP selection committee? I remember that being a thing in years past, and it feels like this year with a 2-loss, potentially Notre Dame team bound for the college football playoff, that could play more of a role in all of the discussions that we see.
I'm not sure I should know the answer to that, but so I apologize. But even if they don't, I don't get into that. I mean, Ward Manuel was on the committee, and he was Michigan's athletic director, and so I don't think it made any difference with the Big Ten influence, that kind of thing. I just think this argument about the conference part of it, because you could argue USC.
They do not, by the way. I've confirmed.
What's that?
Notre Dame does not have anybody.
I didn't think they did. I was just trying to rack my brain to make sure that they didn't. But USC, right? They have to play at Michigan now, and play at Penn State, and play at Ohio State. So I don't know about the future of that rivalry. I understand it from USC's point of view, but Notre Dame kind of gave them a fine, leave here. We don't care. That was kind of the message I got from them Saturday.
Texas wins wasn't anything pretty. But they get a win on the road in the SEC. Where are you right now on the Longhorns?
They're just winning ugly, and they're going to have to do it again this week, right? It's a touchdown spread against Mississippi State. The buildup for them is I think they're going to eventually end up being 9-3. They probably won't beat Georgia. We can talk about Georgia whenever you want in this segment, but I still like that Longhorns defense a lot. I pointed out to somebody over the weekend that Texas is the only team that really stopped Ohio State's offense. So, I mean, that's one thing they do have, but the offense is still stop and start around Arch Manning. And until that changes I don't see it changing with the offensive line that they have in place.
Sam, I suspect that Bill wants to talk about Georgia and I suspect Bill wants to talk about Georgia and Ole Miss.
Yeah, let's hear it, Bill. Well, what did you make of Kirby dominating Lane Kiffin over the weekend?
So did you guys feel like you were watching a Big 12 game? It's kind of how it felt. There wasn't a punt until the third quarter. This Georgia offense rolled up 510 yards. Georgia, like I've said it, I think I've said it on here a few times, that they are not the boa constrictor defense, Georgia, that they were in 21-22. And as a result, they're actually more fun to watch. They get up and down with this offense. Kirby's made some really good coaching decisions. That guy finds ways to win. That's what I wrote Saturday. That guy finds ways to win. He did it against Tennessee. He did it against Ole Miss. He did it against Auburn, however you want to put it. And I think they're in pretty good position to get to 10-2 no matter what happens.
So I want to ask you this then, from an SEC lens on Georgia, can they win this conference this year? I mean, I know you got A&M sitting at the top. They're undefeated in the conference. Alabama's right there. Alabama's the massive favorite to win this conference. Does Georgia have a shot?
I mean, yeah, they definitely have a shot to get to the SEC championship game now. I think they have an inside draw on it, as a matter of fact, as long as they win the rest of their games. Where it could get dicey for Georgia, honestly, let's say they get to 10-1, and then they somehow lose to Georgia Tech, and then they somehow lose the SEC championship game. You're looking at 10-3, and that's one of the dangers of these ACC and SEC teams that by Georgia Tech, same speech. They could be 11-0, lose, and then we'll just be like, hey, they didn't play anybody. Let's get them out of there.
Yeah. If Georgia is the team that finds ways to win, then Miami is the team that finds ways to lose. Can we basically say that?
Well, I mean, Louisville jumped on them right away. I said we got to a hotel in Indianapolis. My son had a lacrosse tournament over the weekend, and I flipped it on. And when it got to 14-0, I was like, I think Miami's done. I didn't have any faith that they were going to win that game at that point. So Carson Beck, obviously, nightmare game.
Oh,
interceptions.
Nightmare post game too.
Yes. And I think that was the mulligan, though. That's the benefit of it being in this 12-team era, that they get one of those. Now the question is, and they play SMU and they play, these other ACC schools down the stretch, will they have another moment like that? Because that could cost them ultimately even an ACC championship appearance, knowing that Virginia and Louisville are in the mix.
Hanging out with Bill Bender, who does a great job on all things college football from the Sporting News. We went through the good and bad from college football, and there is some ugly to get to. Anybody see how North Carolina lost this weekend? We got to talk about that. Bill Bender's going to hang out with us for one more segment on this Monday edition of Sports Wrap, where we're talking college football. Don't go anywhere. Coming up in 10 minutes, a question to ask about the NFL. I'll just leave it right there. Big overarching sort of theme around the NFL that I want to get to. We're hanging out with Bill Bender, the Sporting News, who joins us every Monday on the program to break down everything that happened in college football. He says he might sneeze in this segment. We are anxiously awaiting that moment if it should come. Maybe? Is it there?
I'm hoping
Can you feel
no.
it? Can you
Let's
feel
hope
it?
not.
We're going to bet the no. All right. Bill, Sam has a question for you. Go ahead.
Yeah, Bill, the laundry list of coaches fired this season grew at least 2 longer on Sunday. Billy Napier, the big name out at Florida. Jay Norvell out at Colorado State as well.
Amazing.
But
all these guys.
Of all of the openings, of all the coaches we've seen fired, of all the schools who will be looking for new head football coaches this offseason, which school do you think has the best argument to be made that their coaching position is the best right now?
Well, Sam, I'm glad you asked, because it's Sporting News. I did that assignment last night. I ranked just the Power 4 schools. I ranked them 1 through 7 based on, including Stanford. And it really comes down to a question, and I'm going to ask you guys right back. Penn State and Florida, which one's the better job? Florida, over the years, you have access to better recruiting classes. They've had an average of the top 10 class the last 5 years. But Penn State's produced more NFL players, has had a far better winning record. And I think, as they showed, if Penn State can just be the third wheel in the Big Ten, which they weren't this year. That's why I would take that job, right? Yes. Because Florida, by the way, guys, Florida has pressed reset too much. They're like the kid that plays the video game and just presses reset after it doesn't go their way. They haven't kept a coach for more than 4 years since Urban Meyer left.
Wow. To me, it's Penn State.
Yep.
The gauntlet of the SEC versus what you got to go through, in the Big 12 and Big 10. No, to me, it's also Penn State. I would agree with you on that. Sam, you got a thought?
Give me Virginia Tech. I like the Virginia. Give me the Virginia Tech opening. No, I'm obviously with you.
Not UAB? I thought you were going to go UAB. All right.
When you think about Penn State, too, and I'll just say this compared to Florida, Penn State owns the state of Pennsylvania in terms of football, at least. Florida's competing with what? At least 3 other schools for supremacy of football in Florida. Give me the Penn State job with that alumni base. I think you guys hit the nail right on the head with that.
What did you think of what James Franklin said on game day this weekend in terms of his future and sort of being shell shocked a little bit by what took place at Penn State? And is there any way to read the tea leaves on? Does he land somewhere next year? Does he take a year off? Can he be that choosy and selective? How do you see that playing out?
I think he's going to be a lot of people's first call, because I don't think we're done. He
might be the first call, but does he take what's available, or does he wait to see what opens up after another year? Can he do that?
I think he's going to coach again. I do. That's
next
how
year.
I kind of read. You could, yeah,
okay.
I do, because he could sit on that buyout. Any one of us would do that. We talk and joke about that all the time, but these guys are coaches. They're competitors. And, if an Auburn comes up, or if Florida did come up, like if Florida calls him, he's taking that call. He's got to consider it. It would be really odd in some ways if James Franklin went from Penn State to Florida, these 2 jobs that we just talked about. I think he would fit at Auburn. I honestly think and I know we want to talk about this place, I think he would fit best at North Carolina. If Bill Belichick in that era ends, you bring in a guy like James Franklin. It's a way of covering up your mistakes, so to speak. You know what I mean?
I agree with you. But I just don't know if that's the spot. If he's talking about, I'm going to have to go win a national championship somewhere else, do we ever envision that being at North Carolina?
No, and that's why Florida and Auburn would probably be the 2. If Auburn pops up with Hugh Freeze, which I think will. I mean, they've lost so many close games, and they're getting a little restless down on the plains. So I think that's a job that could come up as well. You make a great point, though. I think North Carolina, they need that coach that nobody's envisioning that program winning a national championship, but they could compete, and they have competed in the ACC, and that's what that next coach is going to have to do.
I got to work this in because obviously Vanderbilt with a huge win over the weekend, but it's got the wheels turning in my mind. Clark Lee going to leave Vanderbilt for any one of these big-time job openings in your mind, Bill?
A couple guys that are going to have a tough decision in the offseason are Clark Lee and Brent Key. It rhymes even. They're guys that are attached to their alma mater, too. And that's the hard part. Like, how loyal are you to your alma mater? Brent Key in particular, I mean, he's got that experience at Alabama. Georgia Tech's having this. He loves Georgia Tech, and Clark Lee loves Vanderbilt. So I think they're going to stay, but they're also going to be among, as this coaching carousel gets crazier and crazier, which it will. We're not even to November yet. Those guys are definitely going to get calls.
And does the Clemson job open up? I mean, we didn't even get to Clemson here, and Dabo's problems continue there.
Yeah, I still think he'll stay. Now, if they go 5-7, It's going to be an interesting discussion. Does Clemson have Dabo fatigue? But I think he's earned himself every bit of that leash. They just won the ACC and went to the college football playoff. So how do you fire that guy? Or are they just tired of the antics? I mean, it is a disaster season for Clemson. And another school to watch, by the way, guys, this weekend. If LSU loses at home, where they've only lost one night game under Brian Kelly, they got Texas A&M rolling in there, and the Aggies are a favorite. Will the Brian Kelly rumors and fit, and where does he go next? Will that stuff start on Sunday morning? It might.
And love to Alabama. I mean, again, we all had them buried after the first game of the season, right. And there they are again. They beat Tennessee this weekend rather handedly, 37-20. I didn't get to Bill Belichick, but that's okay. There'll be plenty of time to get to him because he's not going to be around much longer at North Carolina, probably through the rest of the season. But we'll see. They keep finding ways to lose. Bill Bender, appreciate you, my friend.
Hey, anytime. Thanks for having me on.
Let's take it to segment 5 coming up in 10 minutes. It's some odds and ends, some NASCAR. A couple of losses to the sports world as well over the weekend that I want to get to. But Sam Yarnell, one of the big questions I wanted to ask on the show today, here in this segment, and it is this. Is the NFL right now a mid-league? Is it parity that we're seeing playing out, or is it just a mid-league? I'm honestly torn between the two. I'm the one asking the question, and I'm not even sure I know the answer. Normally, any good detective already knows the answer before they ask the question. I'm actually not sure. I can't figure out what I'm watching. Am I watching just a league that's sort of a bunch of mid-teams that all have their flaws, or is this just the product of parity and talent being dispersed so widely around the league in conjunction with the fact that you have terrible officiating, which we talked about earlier in the show? I'm curious to know from your perspective, mid-league or parity, which is it?
It's the cycle of the NFL, Jason. When I was originally presented
Am I supposed
with
to go the circle of life?
Yeah, exactly. Right. When I was presented with this question originally, I was like, yeah, you're right. You know, it does feel like that. However, this feeling's a little too familiar. Like, when have I felt like this before?
Well, that's what I was going to ask. When did it feel like this before to you?
2018 is the answer. I went back and looked. 2018 is the last time the league was actually like this, and you had talent dispersion the way you have it now, and it was ironically in the midst, or I guess at the back end of the Patriots dynasty, right? And right now we find ourselves in the midst, or I guess for my sake, hopefully at the back end of the Chiefs dynasty, right? What happened in 2018? The New England Patriots went back to the Super Bowl. They won the Super Bowl, right? What's going to happen this year? The Kansas City Chiefs look like they're going back to the Super Bowl. They look like they're going to win the Super Bowl. But I say that this year is like 2018, 7 years ago, because that was a year, albeit under a 16-game schedule, where the worst team in the league had a 4-12 record, and the best team in the league had a 12-4 record. I'm sorry, 13-3. There was one 13-3 team. But regardless, across the league, division winners were 12-4, 10-6, 11-5. That's ratio-wise about what you're looking at this year. 11-12 wins, probably going to win you a division this year. 13 wins, you're probably going to be one of the two best teams in the NFL. Right.
Yeah, you're probably going to be
right, exactly. Yeah. You'll be one of the two best teams in the NFL. So, while I agree that there is something that feels different about this year than last year or even the year before in terms of the talent gap or maybe the dispersion, I think that, and maybe it's because of the way that contracts are structured, or maybe it's the way that we have the draft structured in the NFL, but you look at the period of time, go back and look at 2011 or 12, about every 6 or 7 years, you get this rollover of all of the teams kind of middle out for a season or two before you have the next few rise to the top.
You know, it's funny. I sit here and I ask this question of myself as I look throughout the league and watch all these games and results every week. And I have to tell you, I keep coming back to the teams that we started the season talking about: Buffalo, Kansas City. If you're talking about the NFC, the Eagles, who found a way, to get a win yesterday against the Vikings. As I continue to sort of run through all this, I still keep coming back to those teams. But my confidence level on any of these teams running the postseason gauntlet is as low as I could ever remember it being. And I think 2018 is a great parallel. I was looking at it as you were going on about, sort of that season and comparing it to that. That's actually a great comparison. Is probably 2018 would be the one to look at, because it's just funny. I look at some of the records of these teams: the Niners 5-2, the Rams 5-2, the Buccaneers 5-1, the Packers are 4-1-1. The Eagles at 5-2, the Broncos at 5-2. I could find arguments against all of these teams right now. I can make arguments against any one of these teams winning a Super Bowl. The one that I feel like right now I could find the least arguments against winning a Super Bowl is Kansas City, which is crazy. Really? Considering how the season started, they feel like the team I have, if I'm making a list and putting, you're supposed to make lists when you make big life decisions, and you're supposed to write, pros and cons to everything. The team I'm finding the least cons on, partly because of their resume, is Kansas City.
Are you ready for this?
Sure.
You know what team it is for me?
Who?
The Indianapolis Colts.
Oh, I've got one big con for them, though, and it's the quarterback.
But here's the thing, and it's the inverse of the Chiefs, right? That quarterback might be the most replaceable in football with the team that they put around him and the running game. They have the offensive player of the year standing 7 yards behind him every play. Yeah. So it doesn't freaking matter when you've got the NFL's leader in total touchdowns that far behind you. This Colts team is so well-rounded, and I'm going to have to take a step above saying that they're the Kirkland version of last year's Eagles. They're better than that. They are. They might be last year's Eagles. This Colts team really works so well together, and I think the fact that they have a not amazing quarterback under center does nothing but help that. Whereas in Kansas City, if they lose Mahomes, season's over in the blink of an eye. Who even is their backup? Is it still Gardner Minshew?
Maybe. Not even sure if Gardner Minshew knows who he's the backup of right now. Not even sure. He just knows he's cashing checks. By the way, there's no line on the Buccaneers and Lions. It's a little odd. FanDuel, nothing there. I wonder if that could have to do with the power outage and the whole thing going on, too. We're coming back with Odds and Ends next. All right, just about time to put the wraps on this baby for a Monday. Tomorrow on the show, Cameron Maben, former big league outfielder, World Series winner. Get some thoughts with him on Game 7. We got him on a perfect day. We'll be able to recap a Game 7 for the American League Pennant between the Mariners and Blue Jays. I have a prediction. We'll do that coming up here in just a couple of minutes to wrap up the show. But Sam, on this Monday edition of Sports Wrap, before we get to odds and ends, a couple of quick reminders. If you have not done so yet, make sure to subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page podcast. It's available on all your favorite podcasting platforms: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Odyssey, Amazon, a whole bunch more. Go and subscribe today. It's available early afternoons. In addition, we also have the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel, which if you have not checked it out yet, you don't know what you're missing. Full shows there, Monday through Friday. Oftentimes, you'll see it there before you can even see it on any TV station around the country. Make sure to go and subscribe to the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. Also, Sports Wrap Shorts. If you have not checked out Sports Wrap Shorts yet, anytime news breaks, no matter where I am. I was in Palm Springs, California this weekend for a bowling tournament. We still had Sports Wrap Shorts. I do them on the road. I do them in planes, trains, you name it. Sports Wrap Shorts, when news breaks, we've got it for you on the Sports Wrap with Jason Page YouTube channel. And without any further delay, ladies and gentlemen, time for some odds and ends. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Chase Briscoe, your winner in NASCAR's playoffs. There is just one playoff race remaining before the championship in Phoenix. Chase Briscoe outdueling Michael McDowell, not to be confused with Michael McDonald. Listen, baby. But a win for Chase Briscoe. He punches his ticket for the championship in Phoenix. We are normally joined on Mondays by our friends who cover NASCAR. We had to pass on that today because there's just so much going on right now, obviously, with the baseball and the NFL and the college football. We will resume that next week. But Chase Briscoe, your winner, and joins Denny Hamlin in the championship round as well. And again, next week, Martinsville, and then the following week, the championship race is in Phoenix. Odds and ends, Sam Yarnell. Terrible news from the world of football. Doug Martin, who was one of, again, these guys, especially at the running back position, unless you're talking about like Derrick Henry or Frank Gore, who played for 1,000 years. He might even still be on a team, and I don't know it. Doug Martin was a hell of a running back in the NFL. Had one of the greatest games you will ever see for the Buccaneers against the Raiders, which has been played back over and over again since we found out about his passing yesterday at the age of 36, I believe. Doug Martin passing away. And the circumstances surrounding his passing are still a bit sketchy. So I'm not going to go into opinions or anything about how all of this happened. But apparently he was in police custody in Oakland when he had some sort of medical emergency and passed away. It's being investigated. I don't know all the details, so I'm not going to go all Ryan Clark and start, spouting off about what did or may not have happened, because we just don't know yet. But what we do know is somebody who was a star in this league and a lot of you watched at home and rooted for on Sundays and watched even in the collegiate ranks at Boise State has passed away at all too young age of 36, Sam.
The muscle hamster, yeah, and Doug Martin was a lot of fun to watch back in the day. It is really sad, the whole thing that happened. You mentioned Frank Gore, and whether or not he's still playing You ready to feel old, Jason Page?
Sure.
Frank Gore's son is currently on an NFL practice squad.
Mm-hmm. And he's done more than play on practice squad. I know he's played in some games in the league, if I'm not mistaken, as well.
Yeah. I mean, legendary running back family, the Gores.
Yeah. But rest in peace, obviously, Doug Martin. Jesus Montero, who is a Yankee catching prospect, passing away as well at the age of 35, I believe, from a motorcycle accident. Just awful news, with both of those. I wanted to make sure we obviously got those into the show. Sam Yarnell, we have a Monday Night Football game. We'll somehow make the transition to that. Monday Night Football, we got two games tonight, right? Is another one of these,
for the price
which
of
I
one.
hate. Everybody knows I'm a huge fan of the doubleheader in the NFL that we have to deal with. Tampa Bay and Detroit, and then Houston and the Seahawks. Do you have any picks for me?
I'd lean over in Tampa Bay, Detroit, because it's fast track inside there in Detroit.
What's the number?
But
what's the number?
6.5, 52.5 is the total. Lean over, high total, but nice little challenge on a Monday night. Texans Seahawks feels like an under. I mean, that Texans defense against that Seahawks offense, and then vice versa. Yeah, that feels like an under. So
hopefully AWS gets their crap.
Lions.
Yeah, all right. Go ahead, finish.
No. I was over in Buccaneers Lions, under in Texas Seahawks. That's how I'd lean, but not really passionate about either one of them.
No, all I'm passionate about is seeing if AWS gets its crap together. I know there's this outage that's knocked out web services for everything around the world.
How are you gonna get the show up? Oh my gosh.
Maybe you're seeing this show, or maybe you're watching a best of. I don't know. Maybe you'll only see it on YouTube. I have no idea. I don't know what's going to happen when we go to put the show up today. Going to wrap it up for us. Thanks to Bill Bender. Thanks to you, Sam Yarnell. We're back here tomorrow, hopefully, if the world hasn't all collapsed by then. Cameron Maben will be with us. Maybe. Bye.